I woke to the sound of birds unseen chirping in the trees I had yet to fell. I stood with the sun to my back as the wind howled below the cliffs I stood upon. Turning back, I found the people from last night had gone. This is around when I would start referring to them in my head as ghosts. These hostile, not quite people that seemingly disappeared and reappeared as they pleased. As I looked around for anything I missed the previous night, I noticed that where my mind previously put a drop-off, there was instead a waterfall blocking the path to more land. I really wish I just braved the water. The water flowed onto a ledge not far below, so even if I would have been injured by the fall, it would have been survivable. I wish I could tell you the story of a brave adventurer who conquered the peaks of the mountain he was trapped on. I really do. But that's not what happened. I made my way back to my cave, trying not to think about what I would do when I burned through all the firewood I could reach. Before I reached my original plateau, I saw it. The glowing yellow-white eyes I had seen while climbing up yesterday. They belonged to a ghost, 3, maybe 4 blocks tall, wearing some kind of cloak. It was looking around at a chunk of dirt while disappearing and reappearing all over the place. Remembering the ghost from last night, I hid behind the waterfall and hoped it didn't see me. Luckily, after a few minutes it went away without noticing me. I stepped out past the waterfall. As my right side grazed the flow, it felt like my limbs were slowed by the water. As I pulled my arm free, I thought. It almost seemed as if the ghost was looking for something, and even now I can only imagine what it might be. Perhaps a map to some far-off land the ghost calls home. Or maybe they just dropped their shears. My brain still pondered this mystery as I made my way back towards my cave. As I turned the corner, I couldn't believe my eyes. The ghost left something behind. Lying in a pile were some arrows and, well, what looked like part of the ghost. I walked over to pick them up for a closer look, my gaze focused down and away from the cave. I passed the cave and bent down to grab the items, just as I heard a clack and the sound of stretched string behind me. I jumped out of the way as fast as I could as an arrow flew fast next to my head. I had passed the cave, leaving the ghost between me and the ability to backtrack. I sprinted around the corner of the cliff that nested the cave, putting me barely out of sight of the ghost and its weapon. I had to think of a plan for this ghost to invade the closest thing I could call home. And quick, it would only be a few moments before it rounded the corner in pursuit, and I would have to face down a barrage of arrows. I checked my pockets and bag to count up my options. I had my stick, some saplings, the seeds, and a couple dozen logs. The thought of using the blocks to build a blockade briefly crossed my mind, but I was sure I wouldn't have time to construct it and a wall wouldn't get this intruder out. That was the first time I felt rage. The previous day had inflicted upon me fear, then hope of salvation for the briefest of moments, then a peace to comfort the despair that followed. But now I wanted retribution. I wanted to punish this ghost that stole my one sense of comfort. I clutched my stick, the closest thing I had to weapon at a time, and steeled myself for what was about to round the corner. Any second now. Nothing. Did the ghost lose track of me? Surely not. It's just waiting around the corner with an ambush, I thought as I cautiously poked my head around the corner. Nothing. There was no sign of the ghost other than an arrow sticking out of a nearby block. Surely a trap, I thought. I moved back to my hiding place. I decided to do one last check of my options, looking through a bag for anything I might have missed yesterday. As I turned it over, I spotted something unusual on the side of the bag. A 4x4 grid that looked to have been sewn on. Some kind of decoration, I had originally assumed. But now that I was looking at it closer, I was able to see it. Touch of magic. Dimly glowing white against the daylight. The squares in the grid felt like they almost had a pull to them that to this day I still can't quite explain. They were just a tad bigger than the broken logs. I pulled a log out of my pocket and gently held it up to the square. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but it popped into place on the top left square of the grid. As soon as it was on the grid, a semi-transparent block appeared floating in front of the grid. It was a lighter color and had a rectangular pattern to it. I gingerly put my hand up to this new block, and as soon as I closed my hand around it, the block became solid. Not only that, but I compressed into 4 blocks of it. The log had been used up, but now I had plenty of experimentation to do, especially since the ghost would apparently have given me time. A single one of these plank blocks in the grid gave me a button that, when placed on the wall, did absolutely nothing. Go figure. But one plank right above an hour gave me sticks. 4 of them. I had basically all the sticks I could ever want. I should have just kept testing things, but no, of course not. I had to let this accomplishment get to my head as I somehow thought these new sticks would make me somehow more capable of a fighter. So there I went, blundering into the cave, smacking the ghost with a stick. I gave it a few good whacks, I will admit, but after the first arrow struck me in the shoulder and I stumbled, I knew this wasn't a fight I was going to win. I ran as fast as I could back out of the cave, only slightly ashamed to say the next arrow hit my butt. I stumbled once more, falling into the grass that felt much softer yesterday, hearing a crack from somewhere in my body. I began practically crawling to get back to my safe zone, hoping the ghost would lose me again, but one glance behind me I saw fire, but I didn't have time to think about it. One more shot and I was sure I'd be dead. Deep breath. In and out. In and out. I made it. I wasn't dead. Breathing. Check that I'm breathing. In and out. I'm alive. I slumped to the ground. It started raining. I needed to find a solution. More ghosts would show up in the night, and I wouldn't be able to fight them off. I couldn't even get back to where I slept last night. The ghosts blocked my path. As the raindrops hit my face, all I could think was, I'm going to die here. Stuck on a hill, alone, surrounded by nothing but ghosts and dead trees. As I sat there and looked out across the bay, I heard the world speak once more. But I couldn't find any comfort in it. Not now. I shouted to the crying clouds, why? Why put me here? Why put me here if there's nothing I can do? My brain flashed to when the waterfall slowed my limbs. Maybe a chance. Something I could do. What little of the sun I could see through the fog was setting. Gonna make this quick, I muttered under my breath. Do nothing and did. Do this, maybe not did, possibly, hopefully. Alright, let's go! I took off at a sprint, sliding down the steep rocky hill to the lower outcrop. I heard the ghost rattle behind me as I ran to the cliff's edge, a strafe to the left as an arrow passed by my right. And a jump.